Hi, everybody. Jonathan Brandt, host of GoOutLiving podcast. Today's a special day. Today's going to be a hard day for me. Uh, Friday, January 23rd, 2026, at 9:22 p.m., Kristie Jo Brandt lost her battle with cancer. Kristie was 42. She was my best friend, the love of my life, my wife. She was a mother of five, a daughter, and a friend to so many. Today, I want to go through her story uh, because Go Out Living was inspired by Kristie. Um, and I believe in telling her story, we can learn a lot from Kristie's battle. I continue to learn even after her passing. So I'm not going to get too deep into dates and stuff like that. I tried doing that and it's overwhelming, to be honest with you. And it's not what we need. We need to kind of hear the basic story. And then you can take what you get from it. Like I said, it's been enlightening to me, to be honest, the more I think about it. So I hope you get something out of it. And it's a big reason why we're doing Go Out Living. Like I said, she's the inspiration behind it. So, with that, so Kristie's story really started. I'll go to when I met Kristie. Beautiful woman. This was back in 2018. Seemed to be in great shape. I mean, um, she, I don't know, sorry, it's just overwhelming, but once in a while, she would show signs of discomfort. Things weren't right 100%. A lot of it was abdominal pain. And it was something that was enough where at one point before I met her, she had actually had her gallbladder taken out, um, hoping to get rid of that pain, obviously. It did not work. So she was still actively searching for what was the issue. Uh, Leading up to that, she had 4 kids as well. Did that have anything to do with it? She questioned it. Her last birth at that time there was complications. So I think in a way she thought that could have been a reason, but there just were no answers at that time. And as we went along in our relationship, there were signs of not just discomfort. The pain did get to her, and there'd be once in a while she'd double over even, and she'd go to the ground. It was that intense. And like I said, we continued searching. Ended up, and we went to different hospitals. We went to different doctors, just trying to find an answer. And we found one doctor who they thought it could have been appendix. And he explained to us, it once in a while with appendix, he's seen it, not a lot, but once in a while, where it gets inflamed and can cause discomfort and then back to normal. So it's not a appendicitis per se. It's a discomfort that comes and goes. Okay. It kind of sounded like what she was going through. So Kristie made the decision to go ahead and get the appendix taken out. So we set up the appointment and everything. And you're going to find some of this, I'm going to get into hopefully some amusing stuff. It's not just, that's not who Kristie was. She wants, she wants people to laugh as well. Even with her being gone. So anyway, I set up the appointment for the appendix, and we were there. We're getting her prepped. She is her normal self, and they're asking the normal questions. Could you be pregnant? Could you, you know, just the basic history of everything. And, everything was no. And there because of the discomfort, again, basic questions. Came time to go ahead and bring her back. And I was escorted out of the room, and they'll give me a call when everything is done. I went out to the parking lot, uh, and I would say within minutes, I get a call. You can go ahead and come back. Now, I used to be a surgical technologist. I've done some appendectomies before. I know how long it takes. Yes, it's a fairly quick procedure. Honestly, it is probably one of the quicker ones. This was a record, though. There's just there was no way. Anyway, I started heading back, and obviously everything going through my mind, what the heck, kind of thing. But as I got to her room, the nurse looks at me and abruptly turns the door and heads out. Uh, Quite obvious she didn't want to be there. And I get in there, and Kristie is not happy. Um, Something's definitely going on. I I think in a jokingly way, I was like, "So how did it go?" Obviously, they didn't do it, and she made that quite clear of why. Well, turns out she's pregnant. This was a thing because I was told I couldn't have kids. Uh, we had had a false positive before, so I chuckled a little bit, not thinking it was anything. But sure enough, Chrissy's pregnant. Well, they can't do the surgery now, so that's the tough part right there. Um, and there's all kinds of emotions obviously going. She's been in pain for so long, but now she's worried about the pregnancy in general because, like I said, she's coming off a pretty tough one, the last one. But overall, as we get into it, we are both extremely, we know this is a miracle baby because, like I said, I was not supposed to be able to have any. So, um, yeah, he's turned out to be a complete blessing when we really look at it. But as far as her, there was frustration, obviously, because now we're putting off what potentially was going to solve that issue, that pain. Uh, they were able to finally reschedule for, I believe it was her third trimester. Um, the pregnancy was going fairly well, so everything looked good, and that's what we went ahead and did. And she had her appendix taken out with the obvious hope that that was the cause of everything as far as discomfort and pain and so forth. So, um, unfortunately, it wasn't. At that point, there wasn't much they could do because of her pregnancy. We were going to have to wait, and she just had to deal with it. Unfortunately, we eventually, August of, I want to say, um, it had to be August of 2021. No, I'm sorry, August of 2019, after her pregnancy, is when we were able to start, or after the birth, we were able to really get into what is the next plan for her. Um, and we kept moving forward with everything. I mean, we ended up, uh, it actually was over a year, and we got married, and we still weren't finding answers, to be honest with you. She was doing everything from just blood tests to uh, colonoscopies to, I mean, every imaginable test they could do without really getting too specific, if that makes sense. So a lot of the general tests. It wasn't until 2021. And now this is 2 years later, uh, that she was finally diagnosed. And it was just a random, uh, she went in for something, and somebody was smart enough to finally say, we need a test for cancer. And I say that because if you look at her history from the family side, there was cancer in the family. Kristie lost an eye very young. I want to say she was 10. And if I am correct with this, it was a type of cancer in which they had to remove the eye. So again, this history you would have thought would have kind of put cancer more up towards the front, and it just didn't. So uh, I believe it's March of 21. I'm looking at some of my notes that she was finally diagnosed with cervical cancer. We At one point we did go to Colorado to meet a specialist, um, and to get everything staged out. And what really I think was shocking to us was we were in the room with the doctor, and he wanted to do a physical exam. And I would say within, a minute of actually visually looking at Kristie's cervix, he goes, "Oh my God, you've had this at least 10 years." Wow. I mean, were we floored? I think I don't even think there were words at that point. Just in what we had gone through in the last how many years now? Was it, since I had met her 2018 to now 2022, having a birth within that time, multiple times going to the doctor, uh, many doctors trying to find any answer, and one visual, and it wasn't even tests, one visual, and it was, yeah, it put us on the floor. She had had this for at least 10 years, he said. And I don't know if he meant to say it out loud or what, but he was shocked, it seemed like. So they're, eh, they kept going with the test. We found out she was literally one step away from stage 4, which is stage 3B something, whatever. Not good. Let's be honest, not good. But we never took it as, okay, this is it. That's just not Kristie. That's neither of us, to be honest with you. We never discussed the possibility of her not making it through whatever the treatment we were going to do at the time. And it took several months to get everything in order, but it was determined that we're going to go ahead and she'll do chemo and she'll do radiation, because it was such a high stage at that point. They were going to really hit it hard. Um, so they went ahead and she started her chemo, she started her radiation, and honestly, it knocked her on her butt. She had very little energy. She was getting sick a lot, vomiting, constantly. Uh, the combination, whether it was a chemo or the radiation or both, who knows? But it was tough. It put her in bed, to be honest with you. Um, and then on top of that, everything was looking good. PET scans were coming back, everything's shrinking, but we're gonna really hit it with one last thing, and it's called brachytherapy. And if you haven't heard of it, they basically put several rods into the uterus and point it at whatever cancer is left. And it's to really pinpoint and destroy that cancer through very high intense radiation. We decided to do that up in my hometown just because of whatever reason. Now you got to remember, during all this too is COVID. So let's not, things are tough, but they're even tougher with COVID, by the way. There was even one time, real quick, We were supposed to go to Rapid, I believe, but they needed a COVID test. Came back positive. Well, now they're not going to take her. Well, this is a situation where you can't really stop chemo. You can't stop radiation. You got to, if you're going to do it right, you got to continue to do it. Just one of those moments, and it turned out to be a false negative. So we were able to keep going. But yeah, it made things a little bit more complicated, and just traveling and going to the different hospitals again. Everybody had a different protocol, so not a fun time. And but we made it through it. Now the brachytherapy was a 2-day procedure, and they were going to hit it, like I said, hard on those 2 days, and then she'd be able to go home. Everything went good as far as the procedure itself. They, in their minds, got everything they needed to and did what they needed to do. However, because the radiation is so intense, she ended up getting burns on her backside. And when I say burns, I mean she ended up with blisters. It was not good. Now, keep in mind, we are now 3.5 hours away from home. Oh, poor girl. I mean, that probably was one time that I honestly didn't know how she was going to make it. She was in so much pain. Obviously, she had to sit on her backside to make it home. And like I said, it was 3.5 hours of sitting on blisters, basically. She made it. It was a long drive, but she made it. And as soon as we got home, we basically got her up to bed, and she laid on her stomach. I went and got everything I needed to take care of a burn, and these were bad burns. Again, coming from the surgical tech world, coming from I was a CNA, Kristie being a CNA, we had a good idea of how we were to handle it, and so not too concerned that we needed to go outside of us. Um, so for 2 weeks, we took care of what we needed to take care of, and she got better, and we could finally celebrate because I don't know if it was within those 2 weeks, but we felt like her cancer, they really hit it hard, and yeah, it was going to be gone. And sure enough, took a PET scan, clear. I mean, fantastic. After everything she had just gone through, as intense as it was, and how sick she was during that stint, it was definitely a happy moment. Hopefully the pain is finally gone. Unfortunately, that's not where it ends. She did go back to work as a CNA, certified nurse assistant. Loved it. She is so amazing at it. The way she reacts or interacts with people in the nursing home is just, she treats everybody like grandma and grandpa, or, obviously if they're younger, but like family. She was so good at it, and her compassion was never ending. I mean, she would take those residents, and I don't know if she was supposed to, but she would take them whatever they needed at whatever time of day, whether she was working or not. She made sure they were taken care of. That's just what she did. She loved her job. I got a call at one point, and again, I don't know dates and times, but she was in a lot of pain. And she sent me a picture, and her leg had swelled up about twice as big as the other one. Huge concern. Get to the hospital concern. Um, Something is obviously wrong, and you need to get there quick. Uh, Unfortunately, it wasn't that quick, but she made it to the ED, emergency department, and sure enough, she had a blood clot. Um, this is now the beginning of some other issues, and we can look back now, and we now understand side effects of everything. But we continued on trying to figure out why she was getting blood clots all of a sudden. Um, they came down and said it's May-Thurner syndrome, it's called, and it's where the femoral artery is being pushed against by the vein. So it's narrowing that artery, which constricts the blood flow. And in this case, to the lower extremities, mostly in Kristie's case, to her left side. They believed that was what was now causing blood clots. So she now is going on blood thinners and trying to take care of that so it doesn't start throwing clots. Well, it didn't do anything. She was still getting blood clots. But she's still clear of cancer at this point. So still trying to work, clear of cancer, but dealing with now blood clots, having to take medication for that. Now, we think it's easy at this point where we can handle the blood clots and so forth, we thought. Kristie was in pretty good spirits. Again, she's working. She loves what she did. Um, but now I had my problems, and we're now into 2022, I believe. Actually, let's go back real quick, February of 2022, and I have this written down. She thought she was so good, she went ahead and got her port taken out, which is a huge thing. Everybody thought she was clear. So that was a huge moment for her too. We really thought she had beat this. So that was, again, February of 2022. She's working now as CNA, I have down. And now it's me. November of 2022, I was at work and I was not doing well. I didn't feel good at all. And I usually don't say anything. I'm one of those stubborn ones, but I had to tell Kristie because it was pretty bad. A lot of fatigue, not able to eat. Things didn't taste right. Sweats, crazy night sweats. I worked as a helicopter pilot at the time, medical helicopter pilot. So we worked 7 days on. I was on night shift, and still good to fly, but I was getting to that point where no, I actually wasn't. And I had told my boss at the time, I gotta go, and I was able to get through the shift. We didn't get any calls, but it was to the point where I probably wouldn't have been able to take a flight. But anyway, I get home, and I worked in a different town, so I had to, you know, up all night from the night shift, jumped in the car, got home. Kristie saw me, and like I said, we had had a discussion about everything, and she looked concerned, but I was like, whatever, again, stubborn me. I went ahead and said, hey, I'm jumping in bed, get a little bit of rest here, and that's all I need. It wasn't long before she came and woke me up, and she said, you're going to the doctor. And at the time, I had a pretty large lump on my neck. Again, I thought it was my son at the time, my youngest, at some point during the summer had hit me with one of those little wooden baseball bats. I thought it was from that, or I was trying to talk myself into it was that. Anyway, it was enough concern for our general doctor. He got right on it, and we're now getting biopsies and blood tests and everything. And sure enough, I have Hodgkin's lymphoma. So we go from Kristie having cancer to now I have cancer. This creates obviously a lot of issues because at the time, we're coming off Kristie's. I'm pretty much the breadwinner in the house at the time, and what are we going to do kind of situation. But Kristie's good. Let's get through it. That's just who we are. We don't stop. We just keep going. So that's what we did. Started doing chemo finally. I didn't have to do radiation. They didn't think I had to. They thought it was stage 1. We didn't really stage it out though. It was moving pretty quick, so we just wanted to jump in and get into the chemo. And in my mind, we're going to do this for 3 months and be done. Yeah, that didn't work. Anyway, now in the meantime, Kristie, I think I might have just started chemo, or I was going to. Kristie was still having some pretty big issues now with the blood clots and the May-Thurner syndrome and so forth. So it was determined that we'll go ahead and go up to my hometown again. And she was going to get a stent put in her femoral artery to open that back up to hopefully prevent more blood clots. That was the plan. So we go up, we do the surgery, everything goes great. They open everything up. She's feeling pretty good. While we're up there, and I think it was planned anyway, every certain 3 months, 6 months, depending on how far out you are from cancer, you're still doing PET scans. PET scan will show cancer, active cancer. So she went ahead, did a PET scan. It came back positive. It came back, her cancer was back. It's reoccurring. So yeah, we both now have a cancer. We're both chemo buddies. It was rough. I mean, it was just, we couldn't believe it. We couldn't believe our luck. We thought we had Kristie taken care of. We really did. It just, no, it didn't work. So now, like I said, we're both doing chemo. We do it on the same days. Just doing what we need to do. This is, now we're into 2023. Mine comes back as my chemo was not working anymore. And instead of shrinking it, it's now getting bigger. Huge concern. Again, mine is a pretty quick moving cancer. So that summer we get me in, and sure enough, it's in my bones. They don't stage it out as a 4 for Hodgkin's lymphoma, but it's basically bone marrow transplant time, excuse me. So that was now planned for the end of the summer. You have to go through all kinds of things, taking shots, get your bone marrow up, because they're going to collect my bone marrow for it. It's a process, and we'll also have to do the transplant actually in Colorado now, which also means we were expected to be in the hospital for 2 weeks, and then you have to live within a block of the hospital for additional 2 weeks at least, depending on how you do with everything. Again, Kristie's still going through her stuff at this point. So we get to the time I now have to go to Denver, and it's determined, okay, she's going to run me down, drop me off. She can't be there anyway while I'm in the hospital. There's no point. She'll come back, keep going with her stuff. And that's what we did. I'm not going to get into my stuff, but yeah, it was tough. It wasn't determined because I have to have somebody with me when I get out, in case something happens. They can call 911, hospital, whatever. So Kristie decided that she is about our only choice, but she was going to come down and take care of me. Everything went as planned. I got out of the hospital. Amazing place, put us up for a couple weeks. During those 2 weeks, though, man, you should have seen us. We were a mess. We didn't know who was taking care of who at that point, to be honest. And I remember our first time out, actually, we went to Safeway simply to get the basics, some milk, cereal, whatever. And it was my first time really getting out and walking at that point. Not feeling good still, obviously, very weak. But Kristie's now struggling pretty bad too. She's using a walker actually at this point. And it comes and goes, but we walked in and we went back to get the milk, and of course that's in the back of the store. And we get back there, and man, we both looked at each other and we were hurting. And I remember both of us just holding on to that grocery cart, sorry. We thought we were going to the ground. One of us was going to go to the ground. I could only imagine what other people were thinking at the time. But yeah, we were just holding on for dear life, not to not to go down and make things worse. We eventually got ourselves together and made our way out. But that's about how the 2 weeks went. It was rough. But luckily, everything went the way it needed to go, and we were able to head back home. And essentially that was, the end of kind of my cancer at that point. I came out and I've been clear, knock on wood, since, but dealt with a lot of side effects, and we'll get into those things later. But so back to Kristie. So she's now on her second, like I said, cancer diagnosis, or reoccurring, I guess we can say, struggling with the blood clots. Uh, this new chemo is also starting to give her neuropathy. Um, and it starts to get pretty bad, where she now ends up with drop foot. So now she is basically getting blood clots, and now she has neuropathy and drop foot. And she's at work trying to get through days, but she's now starting to fall because that toe keeps catching on whatever. So from, it just keeps getting worse now with that aspect of it. But she's a fighter. She keeps going. She wasn't going to stop. Now, in the meantime, too, she and my daughter decided to go back to school and get their phlebotomy certificates. And Kristie was so excited to be able to do this with one of her daughters and to go back to school. I mean, she always wanted to be a nurse. So this was a step, and especially during everything, it was huge. Again, you need that positive in your life. Kristie did that. She wasn't done. She was looking at the future. She was doing things that made her happy, that she enjoyed. And to be able to do that with her daughter was huge. So both of them got their certificates and doing really well. This is, again, the chemo in this situation worked again. It came up clear. So again, feeling pretty good. However, that was short-lived. And again, I don't know times and dates and stuff like that, but again, reoccurring. And it seems like every time it reoccurred, it got worse. And we're now at that point where she's doing the phlebotomy. She actually got a job doing phlebotomy and stuff, but she's still really dealing with the blood clots were a huge thing. And now they're going into her lungs. At one point in there, we did make a decision to go down to Colorado because the original doctor was really hesitant to switch out stents, because obviously now that she's throwing blood clots again, the stents weren't working. But he just didn't, and I understand now, when he looked at it, it wasn't going to do anything good. It could have made it worse, actually. We did find somebody that would do it, but he was very reluctant as well. But we at least, let's give it a try. What's it going to hurt, kind of situation. Her cancer's back. We're trying to do anything to take that pain away. And between the neuropathy, the blood clots, and the cancer, she's now really hurting. Get the new stent put in. Now she's starting treatment again. To be honest, nothing ever really came back from that. The stent clotted up immediately almost. She's still throwing clots into her lungs. Chemo isn't working. I mean, straight up, it's not working. So the next step was, I think I have to go to Mayo Clinic was the answer. And this time too, we had made the decision to move back to my hometown. She actually got a job right away, and she went ahead and went up by herself and started working up there as a phlebotomist in urgent care. But the decision to go to Mayo was hopefully they could do surgical with radiation and so forth. So went ahead and did that. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go because I actually had surgery that week of when they had to leave from the side effects of everything I had been through as well. But her and her mom went to Rochester Mayo Clinic, and things went well up there. Hopeful, I guess you would say, but waiting for results, of course. And Kristie had come back to Sydney, and we waited for those results, and it came back as It was too far. This must have been 2024, roughly. Actually, 2025 now that I'm thinking about it, summer of 2025. So not that long ago. But yeah, I came back, couldn't do anything. There was one more chemo she could try. But with all the side effects that she had, again, she still has the neuropathy. She still has the drop foot. We did find a brace for her for the drop foot, which is an absolutely made. Someday, one of the podcasts will be on this one amazing tool, I guess you would call it, or um, it's a medical device for drop foot. Absolutely amazing. I want to honestly do one of these for that. Um, so yeah, she has all those still. This last chemo, the side effect, it could affect your eyes. Well, she's down to the one eye because of when she was a kid had that removed, the other one removed because of cancer. So she was very much against it. And we had heard about this chemo before Mayo, and she just didn't want to do it. The more we got into it, because Mayo couldn't do anything, it was really last shot kind of thing. We talked about it and talked about it and talked about it. We went to a new oncologist. Everybody was saying the same thing. It's your only last chemo, only last chance per se. The problem was this wasn't going to be a cure. This might extend for who knows how long kind of situation. And again, the side effects. She doesn't want to lose her sight, and totally get it. The side effects have been horrible for her throughout this entire journey since diagnosis. So we kind of started to rely on holistics. Now, I say that now, but she had already started getting into alternative medicine and holistics. It could possibly even be a year before that. She was still working as a CNA and so forth. She was trying different things. PEMF, it's called. There's a device called the Healy. Different supplements, different vitamins, different minerals. She was trying everything. It got me thinking and doing a lot of different alternative medicines, to be honest with you. And that's another reason we're doing these podcasts, is to bring awareness to some of the potential that it could help you as well. But so Kristie started, like I said, the holistic side, the alternative side, probably a year before, we really get into this last bit here. And she was finding a lot of comfort in it, to be honest with you. The PMF she loved it. The problem was we had to pay for everything. Insurance didn't cover any of this. That's a whole nother story, between the health insurance, um, different hospitals, billing, it was a struggle. And the stress from all that, you could see that taking a toll on, both me and Kristie, to be honest with you. So now we're into, me and my youngest finally were able to move up to my hometown. And about the same time, Kristie, she ended up in the hospital. And at this point, every time she went to the hospital, she was coming out, I would say, worse. I mean, a lot worse. And it was within this time now where we decided, one, she's not going to do any more chemo. She's going to stick with the holistic aspect of it, because the chemo is not going to be the cure. She's just looking for comfort at this point. We're still not talking about end of life stuff. We are, in a way, our hospice is brought up, but she also now has a stent in her ureter, because, again, the cancer is now pushing against that. So to be able to continue to do that, hospice is very limiting. So and I don't think she, in her mind, wanted hospice. It doesn't mean she didn't think she was kind of getting there, but It just wasn't, she wasn't ready for it. Um, it was determined at this point that I was basically going to be her full-time caregiver. And we were starting to go through the process with that. You know, during all this, at some point, we're both now on disability kind of situation. Like I said, I'm still dealing with the side effects of all my treatment. Hers, I would even say, was worse than mine, but my cancer actually, I'm on the list, so I'm almost immediately um, put on disability. Kristie, it took, gosh, probably 2 years for her to actually get on there. It's not the way to go, folks. I mean, if you have to do it, you got to do it, but it's tough. It's not. You don't have money to do anything. It's not the way to live. Um, so I just want to throw that out there. But that's the situation we were in, and we were trying to get me now on um, as her caregiver, which means they'll pay. But again, it doesn't pay anything. The money was not any part of why we were doing anything. We were just trying to survive. We were trying to support each other. The other thing I want to bring up, and like I said, she had got her phlebotomy during all this. She also went back to school, and she was so proud of this. And this was kind of towards the end again, but she had gone back to get her holistic practitioner's license. It wasn't long ago that she actually completed that. But the best part was when she went to my son and she goes, I'm now a doctor. You can look at me as a doctor. Gosh, she was so proud of it. It was just the greatest moment in the world. Um, the last several months have been rough. Like I said, every time she went to the hospital, she came back worse. And it was the point where she was not able to walk a whole lot. Um, you could see it was taking its toll. And if I really look back, yeah, she was in so much pain, so much discomfort. You don't want to know and say it's over, but January 23rd, her pain finally was over. And it took that moment for me. It sucks. It really does. I miss her so much. But her pain is finally gone. And there's part of you, it's just a big relief. She had battled. If we look back and the things that we can learn from Kristie, this is now almost 5 years since her diagnosis. She was one step away from stage 4 at that diagnosis. They figured she had had it for 10 years at that point. Kristie was a fighter. She never gave up. She, within that time, got her phlebotomy certificate, got her holistic practitioner certificate. She was there for her kids at any and every event. It didn't matter whether we had the money or not. She was going to do it. That's it. We are going to live the best life we can for these kids and for herself and for me. She was amazing. She just didn't stop. And these are the lessons I hope everybody can learn. Here's what I take. She has been my inspiration. It took me a little bit to figure that out, but she is the inspiration for GoOutLiving because she had that attitude. And I didn't always see it, but she did. Her attitude was to go out living. She did everything, like I said, for those kids. She did everything. She had a future in her mind that she wanted, and she kept going for it. And she was at everything and did everything. It was just, and she was working during this time as well. So GoOutLiving is about learning from each other. It's about helping each other. It's about asking those tough questions. So if I look at everything from Kristie's journey, from her battle, these are the things I would say that you could take from her. Number one, Never give up. If something in your body doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. You know yourself better than anybody. Like Kristie, keep going in, find a different doctor, find somebody who will fight for you, and find out what is wrong with you. That was her number one. Yes, it ended up taking her over 10 years. We now know that. But she didn't stop. She kept trying to find those answers. Number two, and I think we both wish we would have done more of this, was ask questions. Just because they say, let's do this chemo, let's do this radiation, ask questions. Is that the best option for you? The other thing that goes with that is, what are the side effects of the chemo, of the radiation? Look at all of it. There may be, these days, there's more than one chemo. There's more than one way to do radiation. There's more than one way to do all this combined. So look at all of it. Ask the questions. What will this do to me from an everyday standpoint? I'm looking at neuropathy. What about blood clots? What about, I had, gut issues. There's so many side effects from everything we do from the chemo side of it. It's not just about cancer either. You can look at it from, if you have obesity, if you are, heart disease, you're taking medication, folks. You can learn from Kristie. You can ask those questions. You can find out what side effects you can expect. And guess what? You can look at the alternative medicine, the holistic aspect of it. Is there something, a supplement? Is there a mineral? Is there vitamins that you can take that might reduce the side effects? These are things that Kristie wish she would have known and wish she would have asked. The next thing, your life doesn't end with that diagnosis. It only does if you want it to. But in Kristie's mind, it didn't. And she proved it. Again, she went back and started being a CNA again. She got her phlebotomy certificate, and she got her holistic practitioner's license. Her future didn't stop because she got that diagnosis, even knowing that she had this for so much longer than we expected originally. She never quit. That's what you can take from her. Keep going. That positive attitude will keep you going. Again, she went almost 5 years at almost stage 4. It can happen for you too. Keep that positive attitude. The other thing I think she would say is, don't just settle for your town, for your doctor, for the easy way out. If you need to go other places, get a second opinion. It's not going to hurt you. Yes, okay, financially it can get tough. However, this is your life. Keep fighting. Go find the person that has the answer. Probably last, and there's so much more to it. There really is. And again, this is the inspiration she gave to me. Have the attitude. Have the attitude. It's that simple. Kristie will live with not only me, and I want to thank, here's the other thing. I'm going to thank all her friends, all her family, all her acquaintances that are reaching out to us. It's been amazing. I didn't even realize how many people were in Kristie's life. I thank you guys so much. Sorry. She just wants people to be happy. This is all she's ever wanted. She's always only wanted to help others. This is going to be, GoOutLiving will be Kristie. It is her legacy. We will not stop trying to help others. I'll not stop. This is what we decided to do together until we're both gone. We will try and find answers. We are going to ask the questions. We're going to bring the attitude because we all deserve it. We deserve better than what we've been through. Please share this story. Learn from this story. She was an amazing person. She died way too young for all of us. I wish she was here. I do. I know she's here, but physically, yeah, I wish she was still here. But we can still learn from her. We can be better people. Take that inspiration that she has given not only me, but that she has shown other people, and go with it, folks. Thank you so much. I could keep going, but a moment of silence, please, for my wife. And then, and I know she would say, find the attitude, keep the attitude, go out living.